My beloved child, there is a person whose heart is heavy with the weight of your absence, and that pain is deep and real. I want you to take a second and just breathe with me. Let the air fill your lungs and then let it go, because we are going to walk through a room in your mind that you might have kept locked for a while. This is the space where you keep every memory of them, every shared joke, and every little thing that used to define your connection. It might be a small corner filled with the sound of a specific laugh you haven't heard in months, or the memory of a chipped plate you both used for breakfast. Maybe it is the echo of a final conversation that you find yourself playing back in your head late at night. I am not here to point fingers or tell you who was right or wrong. This is about understanding what is happening in the quiet moments when the world is still, and why this person is navigating a world of silent suffering. You see, there is someone who once loved you with every bit of energy they had, or perhaps someone who loved you from the shadows, never finding the right words to tell you. Regardless of how it was expressed, they are now carrying a specific kind of hurt that centers entirely on you. This kind of pain isn't like what you see in the movies. It isn't always filled with dramatic tears or crashing music. Most of the time it is much quieter than that. It is a low-frequency ache, a steady vibration that follows them through their most ordinary days. It shows up in the smallest, most inconvenient ways. It hits them during the time of day when you used to call each other, or when they see something you would have found funny, only to realize they can't send it to you. All those questions they never got to ask are now piling up like old mail on a table, gathering dust but never disappearing. We often think that pain has to be loud to be real, but that is a mistake. Sometimes the deepest agony is the most organized. It turns itself into a routine, a way of waking up and moving through the world that feels robotic. They might walk around with a face that looks completely indifferent, as if they don't care at all, but that is just a mask. Underneath that surface is a heart that is raw and exposed, trying to figure out how to be a complete person again, without the one individual they had counted on for everything. There are so many reasons why they are feeling this way, and all of them are deeply human. One of the biggest reasons is the total collapse of expectation. People don't just fall in love, they build futures together, like they are stacking bricks for a house. Every small gesture, every good morning text, and every plan for next summer was a brick. When the foundation of that relationship shifts, the entire blueprint of their life feels wrong. They aren't just mourning the loss of you, they are mourning the entire life they had already lived out in their imagination. Have you ever noticed how the human mind hates a mystery? We crave meaning and reasons for why things happen. When a bridge is burned or a message is left on read, the mind starts traveling in dangerous, endless circles. They find themselves asking why, over and over again. They wonder if they did something wrong, or if they simply weren't enough to make you stay. This cycle of regret and guilt is an exhausting weight to carry. Guilt is a strange emotion because it can belong to both people at once. They might feel like they failed you, or they might feel a stinging resentment because they feel you failed them. Either way, that guilt sits right in the middle of their chest like a heavy stone, making it feel like they can never quite take a full, deep breath. Sometimes, the way they show this pain isn't through sadness, but through anger. It is much easier for a person to feel furious than it is for them to feel vulnerable. They might use sarcasm or show a sudden coldness because admitting that they still love you would feel like taking off their armor in the middle of a battle. They are protecting themselves the only way they know how. Even if the relationship changed slowly over time, the finality of distance often hits like a sudden drop in the pit of the stomach. It is a shock to the system that takes a long time to settle. Even if they look perfectly fine. To the rest of the world, you might never see the moments when they are actually breaking. Their pain is in the way they stay on your social media posts just a few seconds too long, or how they remember details about your life that even you have forgotten. They might start holding on to tiny, meaningless objects. A receipt from a lunch you shared, a screenshot of a text, or a blurry photo. To anyone else it's trash, but to them these are anchors that keep them from drifting away from the past. You might notice them becoming more impulsive, sending a message at 2 a.m., or visiting a place they know you might be. They might hear a song on the radio that reminds them of you, and it becomes the soundtrack to their entire day, starting and ending with the memory of your face. In the comments, I want you to tell me, have you ever felt that silent weight in your chest, knowing there were words you wanted to say but the silence felt too heavy to break? Their speech might become short or clipped when they are around you, because they are afraid of what might spill out if they speak too much. They might refuse to stay in a room with you, or conversely, they might overstay their welcome, just staring into space because they don't know how to leave. Some people use humor as a shield, joking more aggressively or more often than they used to. It is a way of functioning with a broken heart while making it look like normality to everyone else. But just because they are functioning doesn't mean the pain isn't intense inside. There is a constant monologue running in their head on a loop. It's a series of what-ifs and if-onlys. If only I had said this differently. Maybe I should have called. Maybe I should never call again. They wonder if they missed a sign or if you even think about them at all. They replay scenes from your history that might seem small to an outsider but feel monumental to them because those scenes held all their hope. They are constantly looking for signs, reading deep meaning into your neutral words and building entire stories out of a single glance. My child, think about the invisible conversations that never stop playing in the mind of someone who is hurting over you. If you could pull back the curtain and listen to their inner monologue, you would hear a tape playing on a constant, exhausting loop. It is a series of questions that have no easy answers, a cycle of what-ifs that keep them awake while the rest of the world is sleeping. They find themselves wondering if things would be different if they had chosen their words more carefully or if they had acted sooner. They oscillate between wanting to pick up the phone and wanting to disappear forever, caught in a limbo where every choice feels like the wrong one. They are constantly searching for meaning in the smallest details that most people would overlook. To an outsider, a brief encounter or a neutral text message might seem like nothing, but to them, these moments are monumental. They are like detectives looking for a clue that they still matter to you, reading deep significance into a glance that lasted a second too long, or a word that seemed a little too cold. They craft entire narratives around these tiny interactions, trying to build a bridge back to a time when things made sense. You might wonder why they keep all of this bottled up inside, why they don't just reach out and tell you how they feel. The truth is that there is a strange kind of courage in their silence, but it is also fueled by a deep-seated fear. They are terrified of looking weak or losing what little dignity they feel they have left. They don't want to come across as desperate, and they certainly don't want you to feel burdened by their pain or pressured by their guilt. Sometimes they remain silent because they are trying to protect themselves from being hurt one more time, and keeping the door shut feels like the only way to stay safe. The quietest people are often the ones carrying the heaviest loads, choosing to contain their emotions, because they feel the world expects them to just move on. But even when someone is trying their best to hide their suffering, the truth has a way of leaking out through the cracks. If you look closely and with a heart full of compassion, you will start to see the patterns that give them away. Pain doesn't always show up as a tear-streaked face. Sometimes it shows up as a sudden change in how someone moves through their day. Watch for the way they avoid certain places that used to be your spots. Or conversely, notice if they seem to return to those places compulsively, as if they are trying to find a ghost. You might see shifts in their routine that don't quite make sense. They might stay at work much later than usual just to avoid going home to a quiet house, or their sleeping patterns might become erratic. They might suddenly throw themselves into social plans with a forced energy, or disappear from the social scene entirely. One of the most beautiful and heartbreaking signs of a hurting heart is when someone begins to perform small, quiet acts of generosity for others. They might go out of their way to help a stranger or support a friend in need, not because they have excess energy, but because they are trying to soothe their own aching heart by bringing a little bit of light to someone else's. It is a way of proving to themselves that they still have value, even if they feel like they've lost the person who valued them most. Their emotional weather can become unpredictable, with sunny moments followed by sudden storms for no visible reason. While these signs aren't definitive proof of what they are feeling, when you look at them through the lens of your shared history, they become clear signals that something is unresolved beneath the surface. There is so much weight in what they are not saying. If the silence between you feels heavy, it is because it is filled with all the things they were. They could tell you but can't find the courage to voice. Deep down, they want you to know that they haven't forgotten the small things. They still remember the specific way you laughed at a joke no one else understood, the rhythm of your walk, and the shorthand language that only the two of you spoke. They are often carrying a sense of disappointment, not necessarily in you as a person, but in the way the story unfolded. They grieve the fact that they are no longer a part of your daily life, the person you turn to when something good or bad happens. In the comments, I would love to hear from you. What is a small, everyday detail about a past connection that you still find yourself remembering even after all this time? There is often a layer of shame or regret that they carry privately, things they wish they could apologize for, but feel it might be too late to bring up. They might have words that would change everything, but they keep them tucked away because the risk of rejection feels too high. There is a particularly tender and cruel thought that many people in this position struggle with, the wish that they could have been exactly who you needed them to be at that time. That wish is a sharp edge because it reminds them of a version of the future that is no longer possible. When someone is in this state, they are essentially mourning a life that hasn't happened yet, the one they had built in their mind with you. It's like standing in a house that was never finished. I can see where the rooms were supposed to be and where the light would have hit, but the roof is missing and the wind is getting in. They are trying to learn how to be whole again, but the blueprint they were using is now useless, and starting over feels like an impossible task. They are navigating the shock of distance, that sudden realization that the person who was once the closest to them is now a stranger. This shock isn't something that disappears overnight. It settles into the bones and makes every movement feel a little heavier. Even if they are smiling and moving through their life, they are doing so with a brokenness that looks like normality to the rest of the world. They have learned how to play the part, how to answer "I'm fine" when someone asks, but the intensity of what they are feeling inside hasn't faded. It is important to understand that this person is protecting their armor. Admitting that they still care, that they are still hurting, or that they still miss you, feels like a complete loss of defense. To show vulnerability after a bridge has been burned feels like standing in the open during a storm. So they stay behind their walls, replaying the scenes that felt small to everyone else but were monumental to them, hoping for a sign that they haven't been completely erased from your mind. My child, if you find yourself listening to this and realizing that you hold a piece of someone else's peace in your hands, you might be wondering what the HT thing to do is. Whether your heart is leaning toward going back, offering a simple word of comfort, or perhaps finally setting a firm and healthy boundary, the way you choose to respond matters deeply. You have a choice in how you communicate, and the most compassionate thing you can offer another human being is clarity over ambiguity. When we are unsure of our own feelings, we often leave doors half open, sending mixed signals that keep the other person in a state of constant, agonizing hope. This kind of ambiguity acts like a slow-acting poison in a relationship. If you truly need space, it is a kindness to say so clearly but with a gentle tone. If you are open to a conversation, then open that door in a way that feels safe and stable. Being direct allows the other person to stop guessing and start processing the reality of the situation. It is a common instinct to want to jump in and fix someone's sadness, especially if you feel responsible for it. But you must understand that you don't always have to be the solution to their pain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply acknowledge that their feelings are real without trying to solve them. A simple statement like, "I hear you," or "I am so sorry to know that you are hurting," can act like a soothing balm on a raw wound. It validates their experience without making promises you can't keep. Think of honesty as a form of medicine. When truth is delivered with tenderness, it has the power to heal even the deepest fractures. However, when honesty is delivered with brutality or without a sense of care, it only serves to deepen the existing wounds. You can be firm and truthful about your needs or your boundaries while still remaining soft in your delivery. This balance is what allows two people to move forward, whether they are moving together or apart. We often look at time as a period of absence, a gap where nothing is happening, but time is actually a period of reshaping. Both of you might need this time to transform into the versions of yourselves that can handle whatever comes next. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line, and you must respect the pace at which it occurs, both for yourself and for the other person. Rushing this process is like trying to force a flower to bloom before its season. You only end up damaging the very thing you are trying to grow. In the comments, I want you to share your thoughts on this. Do you believe that being completely honest, even when it's painful, is always the kindest path in the long run? If your heart is pulling you back toward this person, you have to realize that wanting them back is a very normal human emotion. However, getting to a place where a reconnection is actually healthy requires a great deal of nuance and self-reflection. It cannot just be about missing the comfort of their presence. It has to be about building something new and more stable than what existed before. The first step in a healthy return is to truly own your part in the breakdown. If there were mistakes made or moments where you fell short, naming those missteps without making excuses is incredibly powerful. It shows that you have done the work of looking inward. Avoid the temptation of the grand gesture. The big dramatic displays of affection often crash because they aren't sustainable. Instead, focus on small, consistent changes over time. It is the modest, repeatable acts that rebuild the foundation of trust. Reconnection also requires the art of patient listening. You have to be willing to hear their hurts and their perspective without immediately jumping to your own defense. Resist the urge to interrupt or redirect the conversation back to yourself. Just listen. Let their words exist in the room. This creates a space where both people feel seen and heard, which is the only place where true healing can begin. During this process, remember that boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are structures designed to help both people feel safe. Setting a boundary is an act of care because it defines the rules of engagement so that neither person gets hurt again. Without these structures, a relationship can easily fall back into the same patterns that caused the pain in the first place. You must also be wary of the things that don't help. Pushing for immediate closure just to stop the feeling of discomfort usually backfires. If either of you isn't truly ready to settle things, forcing a quick resolution will likely just reopen old wounds that were starting to close. Avoid using public displays to force an emotional reaction from the other person. These tactics often feel manipulative and put unfair pressure on someone who is already struggling to find their footing. Perhaps most importantly, avoid the trap of plating without changing, which means saying all the right words without following them up with real action. When you use the language of healing but don't change your behavior, you teach the other person's heart to distrust your words. Trust is not built on what you say, it is built on what you do, day after day when no one else is watching. There are times, however, when the path forward doesn't lead back to the other person, but away from them. If you decide that you need to step away for good, understand that seeking closure is an act of deep self-care. You can close a chapter with compassion for the other person while still prioritizing your own well-being. Closure isn't something someone else gives you, it is something you create for yourself. A powerful tool for this is writing down everything you cannot say. Write a letter that contains your anger, your love, your regrets, and your hopes. You may never actually send this letter, and that's okay. The act of getting those thoughts out of your body and onto paper is what brings clarity to your soul. It allows you to see the situation for what it really is, rather than what you wished it could be. If you find that no contact is the only way for you to truly heal, be explicit and gentle about that boundary. Let the other person know that you need this space for your own growth, and then keep that boundary firmly in place. Small rituals can also be incredibly therapeutic during this time, whether it is taking a long walk, performing a small ceremony of letting go, or simply drawing a mental line in the sand. These acts help mark the transition from the past to the future. Finally, remember that forgiveness is ultimately for the forgiver. You don't forgive someone because what they did was okay, and you don't even have to tell them that you've forgiven them. You forgive so that you can free yourself from the weight of resentment. It is the act of putting down the heavy stone you've been carrying so that you can walk into your new life with light, open hands. My child, healing is rarely a straight, clean line that leads you directly from pain to peace. Instead, it is a journey that wobbles, shifts, and eventually begins to steady itself. You might find that some days feel like a major breakthrough, while others feel like you've taken 10 steps backward into the old ache. This is a natural part of the process for both you and the person who is suffering. For them, the path to recovery requires a great deal of time and patience. If the situation allows for it, you might even gently suggest that they seek out therapy to help them navigate the heavy emotions that are too big to carry alone. It is also helpful to encourage them to find small moments of joy and to lean on the friends who truly care for them. You have to understand that when someone is processing a deep loss, their anger is often just a stage of love that has nowhere else to go. It is a way of handling the intensity of what they feel. While they are on their journey, you must also be incredibly careful with your own heart. Losing a person or a connection is still a form of grief, even if you were the one who walked away. You have to be patient with your own emotions as they rise and fall. Speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend, and try to find new rhythms and routines that anchor you to the present moment. Even if the two of you never walk the same path together again, you can still choose to walk your separate ways without looking back in bitterness. There is a way to move forward without stomping on the memories or the weeds of the past. Kindness is the thread that allows both people to return to themselves in a healthy way. It is about recognizing that what you shared was real, but that the season for it has changed. Now, I want to invite you into a guided moment of reflection, something you can do right now or whenever you feel the weight of this connection. If you are in a safe place, I want you to close your eyes and breathe very slowly. Let the air move in and out, calming your nervous system. In your mind's eye, I want you to imagine a room made entire of warm, soft light. This isn't a perfect, sterile room from a magazine. It is a space that feels lived in and real. Maybe it looks like a small, messy kitchen where the morning sun hits the table, or a cozy couch with a soft blanket thrown across the back. Imagine that person is sitting there with you. Look at them closely in this quiet space. Notice how they are holding their hands, and see the way their shoulders might be tightened as if they are carrying a heavy weight. Just see them for who they are in this moment, without any judgment or defensive thoughts. Now, imagine that you offer them just one single sentence that is completely honest and free of any blame. You might say, "I see that you are hurting," or perhaps, "I am sorry for my part in what happened between us." It could even be something as simple as, "I hear you." In your mind, watch how they react to those words. If they seem to accept what you've said, imagine yourself just sitting and breathing with them for a moment in that warm light. If they pull away or seem closed off, imagine yourself setting your words down gently on the table between you. You don't have to force them to listen. You can just let those words be theirs to pick up whenever they are ready. When you feel a sense of release, you can open your eyes and try to hold on to that feeling of calm like a small, smooth stone in your pocket. In the comments below, I want you to tell me if you could say one honest, unblaming sentence to that person right now, what would it be? Sometimes you might feel the need to reach out in the real world, and it can be hard to find the right words that feel safe and respectful. If you want to send a message that is gentle and doesn't put pressure on them, you could try saying something like, "I've been thinking about you lately. There is no pressure at all to reply, but I just wanted you to know you're on my mind." This gives them the comfort of knowing they haven't been forgotten, without demanding that they perform the emotional labor of a response. If you are feeling a sense of regret and want to offer an apology, you could say, "I am sorry for the ways I hurt you, and I would like to understand your perspective better whenever you are ready." This shows that you are willing to listen and that you value their experience. Alternatively, if you want to leave a door open for the future without forcing it, you could say, "I can see that this has been a painful time for both of us. If you ever want to talk, I am here for you. If not, I completely respect your space." There are also times when reaching out is about finding your own closure and setting a final peaceful boundary. In those cases, you might say, "For my own healing and peace, I need to take some space right now. I truly wish you well and hope that you find the peace you are looking for." Or if you have decided it is time to move on completely, you might say, "I am choosing to step away now, but I wanted to tell you, that I hope you find everything you need." These scripts are tools to help you lead with clarity and care, ensuring that your actions match your intent. Pain, when we tend to it with patience and care, can eventually become a very powerful teacher. It has a way of teaching us humility and showing us how to truly listen to the silence of another person. It teaches us the incredible value of trust that is built not through grand, sweeping gestures, but through small, repeatable acts of consistency. Through this process, we learn that some people grow apart so that they can become kinder, more evolved versions of themselves, versions that they might never have become if they had stayed together. It is also possible that after a period of time and growth, two people can come back together as completely changed individuals. Both outcomes, moving on separately or finding a new way to be together, are deeply human and equally valid. There is no wrong path as long as you are moving with intention and honesty. If someone is in pain over you right now, it is a testament to the depth of the connection you once shared. It means your presence mattered enough to leave a mark, and that is a solemn, tender fact that deserves respect. You have the permission and the right to protect your own heart during this time. You are allowed to ask for respect, you are allowed to confess your mistakes, and you are allowed to walk away if that is what is necessary for your well-being. You are also allowed to stay and try to work through the difficulty if you believe there is still a foundation worth building on. Whatever you choose, make sure you are being kind to yourself throughout the process. If you listened to these words and felt a little bit of the weight lift from your shoulders, then this time was well spent. If these words touch something raw or difficult inside of you, please take a moment to be gentle with yourself as you process it. Healing is a slow work, but it is the most important work you will ever do. Thank you for being here, and for having the courage to look at the difficult parts of your heart with such honesty. If you found value in this message, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today.